8 most unstable countries in the world. Even money and courage might not be enough to visit. In countries with extremely high poverty and crime rates, one can often see security guards carrying guns, even from the supermarket office or local eateries, places where the government has even put up signs prohibiting foreign visitors. Even if you have plenty of money or can afford to eat lobster, you still might not have the courage to go. Now, let's take a look at 8 unstable countries that are fraught with fear and danger. North Korea. North Korea is arguably the most isolated country in the world, and our chances of accessing it are essentially non-existent. North Korea remains a dangerous and unpredictable nation, so we must be prepared for it. This is a statement made by U.S. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel. It seems paradoxical that the United States is a superpower, while North Korea is a small and relatively impoverished nation. So, what makes North Korea a dangerous country? First, we must mention the key strategist elements: the trump card, nuclear weapons, and missiles. For the U.S., if Iran is ready to compromise its nuclear program in return for lifting sanctions, then North Korea has shown a capacity to endure much more than Iran. Even after experiencing numerous natural disasters and famines, this country has launched missiles multiple times, creating confusion around the world and prompting major powers like the US, Japan, and South Korea to raise alarms and hold emergency meetings to figure out how to respond. So, why do powerful countries respond so strongly to a missile test by North Korea? Meanwhile, countries like India, Pakistan, Iran, and Russia continue to conduct tests as if it were a daily routine. The main reason is their fear of a powerful North Korea armed with dangerous weapons that could threaten the country's security. North Korea is also very challenging to manage due to its constant and unexpected changes. Moreover, this country is led by Kim Jong-un, who is known for his fiery temperament, making it very challenging to talk or negotiate with North Korea. That's why it has international significance. For regular travelers, North Korea is definitely not a good option, as the country enforces some very unreasonable restrictions. An example of this is the ban on wearing blue jeans. You are not allowed to make phone calls abroad, take pictures, or speak with locals without permission. Please dress modestly and avoid making noise, shouting, or whistling. In particular, discussing political issues about North Korea is not allowed in their own country. If a tourist breaks the law, they can easily be taken to a re-education camp or, in more severe cases, forced into hard labor. Overall, if you're someone who enjoys traveling and dislikes being restricted by unpredictable rules, then you should avoid going to North Korea. If you've already booked your ticket, take a week to memorize all the do's and don'ts to avoid any unnecessary hassles. India. What comes to mind when you think of India? A country with the fastest growing economy in the world, leading in various fields. The answer is correct, but it's insufficient. For the last decade, India has consistently been on the blacklist of countries that travelers should avoid. I'm sure you all remember this couple, the travelers who smoothly journeyed through 63 countries, but unfortunately had an accident upon arriving in India. Although she did not go alone, but with her husband, this girl was harmed by 7 men, and her husband was tied up and had to witness it all with his own eyes. This danger has been around for a while, not just now. Recently, a Korean blogger posted a video warning that women should avoid traveling alone to India. If you regularly read the news, then you're probably no stranger to outrage-inducing headlines like these. These real stories also highlight the struggles of Indian women forced to live in dehumanizing conditions in a country known for its extreme male dominance. Did you know that, on average, in India, a woman gets into an accident every 15 minutes? And that doesn't even include the incidents that haven't been reported. It's astonishing that while they worship and honor the goddess of the Ganges River, there are women nearby who are treated harshly and are not cared for, to the point that it seems inhumane. Just like the cycle of a woman's period, they are not allowed to touch men in the house, enter the kitchen, visit temples, attend festivals, or even cook or touch food. However, what's even worse is that in many places, women are being kicked out of their homes, forced to relocate to isolated areas where they live in makeshift huts like this. While people around the world universally affirm that women deserve love and protection, the situation in India is entirely different. They consider it normal and justify physical intervention if a woman is unable to take care of the family. It's just that today's meal isn't as good as yesterday's, and even though stricter laws have been implemented to protect women, they have proven largely ineffective, as the police in this country continue to report hundreds of incidents of assault and harassment each day, varying in severity. Just listening to it gives you chills, doesn't it, guys? If you're considering a trip to India, you should think it through carefully. If you do decide to go, it's advisable to travel with men. Afghanistan. Afghanistan is also on today's blacklist, particularly known for being extremely unstable for women. Initially, Afghanistan is recognized as the homeland of one of the world's most infamous terrorist groups, the Taliban. This oppressive regime has historically sparked outrage among people for enforcing harsh and inhumane laws against women. After regaining power in August 2021, this regime promised to implement moderate policies and uphold women's rights. However, in reality, the Taliban is known for making empty promises. While the world is becoming more developed and progressive, the Taliban has ordered the closure of secondary schools for girls. Do not allow women to go to university and work for non-governmental organizations, including the United Nations. Women are even restricted from going out without a male companion. They have to cover their heads completely, leaving only their eyes visible, and are not allowed to visit public places, such as parks or gyms. Additionally, Afghan women are currently barred from working in most professions, including beauty spas and the media, as these roles are deemed incompatible with Islamic practices. What about the female travelers? It seems that Afghanistan is well aware that their country is unsafe, which is why many hotels even offer additional services, like bodyguard rentals, to ensure the safety of tourists. In general, just hearing something suspicious already feels unsafe. So, if you really want to experience what it's like to step foot in Afghanistan, the first thing you need is to be daring. Next, there needs to be a man accompanying, and make sure to stay updated on the news regularly to avoid dangerous situations in the area if you don't want to put your life at risk while abroad. Colombia. Colombia is a stunning South American country filled with unique natural attractions, particularly renowned for its enchanting tango dances. It's really ideal for a travel visit, don't you think? So why is Colombia regarded as unstable? While it may not be as dangerous as some of the countries mentioned, it is still ranked among the top by the world due to the rampant drug trafficking and robbery that occur in many cities throughout the country. Many people may not realize that Colombia is the birthplace of some of the world's most notorious and powerful drug lords. Not only are people engaged in drug dealing, but many here are also deeply entrenched in this vice, living their daily lives alongside drugs. It's not uncommon to see people who look like walking corpses, from the homeless to ordinary citizens without homes, many of whom are trapped in the grip of addiction. Just looking at it sends shivers down your spine, so I can't imagine anyone wanting to travel here. It's no coincidence that in large cities, the government requires warning signs, even prohibiting tourists from lingering nearby due to the rampant thefts in the area. Additionally, there are frequent violent protests in Colombia, so it's better to prioritize safety first, and we can appreciate the beautiful scenery later. Additionally, in relation to drug problems, another country has remained predominantly on the list of dangerous countries for the past decade. Let's find out which country it is together. Philippines. The screen you are looking at displays the United Nations survey of the 10 safest and 10 most dangerous countries in the world for 2019. In 2019, the Philippines was recognized as the most dangerous and unstable country in the world. As we reach 2024, the situation still doesn't seem to have improved much. The Philippines remains in a state of chaos and instability. While the situation in the Philippines may not be as dire as the civil wars in some African countries, it still faces an overwhelming number of riots, protests, kidnappings, and natural disasters. The drug problem here is especially severe, ranking just behind Colombia. At first glance, this may look like an ordinary street, but in reality, the people living here are primarily drug dealers, thieves, and even infamous assassins. Even kids can serve as the eyes and ears for powerful figures. Overall, drug abuse in the Philippines is a very serious problem, one that affects not just the country itself, but also the entire world. Even though the Philippine government has implemented tough policies, things seem to be getting worse and worse. For instance, the anti-drug campaign launched by President Rodrigo Duterte in 2019, intended to purify the Philippines, incited outrage among underground forces, resulting in hundreds of attacks on civilians, with many innocent lives tragically lost. Next up is a name that will surely be quite unfamiliar to many. Haiti is a name that still seems quite unfamiliar to many people. However unusual it may be, it's essential to understand and gather enough information because this name is inciting outrage around the world due to its dangerous implications. Like the war-torn countries in Africa, Haiti is currently facing an unprecedented wave of violence. When out on the streets, you may suddenly run into gunfire or extreme tensions between the police and armed gangs. Considering the current situation, would you all have the courage to try coming here if you were offered money? Haiti is so dangerous that merely stepping into establishments, supermarkets, agencies, or cafes, you can easily spot guards with guns. Yes, the reason is that this is the only method they have to keep everyone in their facility safe from armed group attacks. This unrest also leads to many other issues, such as looting and kidnapping. Overall, it's extremely dangerous, and it's best to avoid the area. Ukraine. Everyone is aware of the current situation in Ukraine, a country that is suffering just as much as other war-torn nations in Africa. In confronting a military powerhouse like Russia, Ukraine finds itself nearly in a passive position, with everywhere engulfed in bomb blasts and weapons. The people are fighting to make ends meet. Given the current tense situation, it's clear that Ukraine is one of the most unstable places on the blacklist, and no one would dare to go there, even for money, or if they had the courage of a lion. Ultimately, like India and Afghanistan, this country is also very dangerous, particularly for women. Syria, a country where, just over a decade ago, people took to the streets in droves to protest against the government. Ultimately, a wave of protests escalated into a civil war that lasted for many years, and the situation has remained unchanged. The conflicts in Syria continue to be regarded as one of the most perilous wars of the 21st century. What you see on the screen are powerful images that convey the impact of civil wars and reflect the haunting reality of life for the people of Syria. However, that's not all. The most suffering must be the women in Syria. To survive the civil wars, Syrian women often turn to refugee camps. Yet in these seemingly safe places, they find themselves back in hell once more. They frequently face violence and trauma, and many women are forced to trade their bodies for food just to get by each day. Over 80% of women in Syria report that they do not receive adequate health care, and 95% express feelings of despair due to frequent abuse, being forced to do excessively heavy labor, and living in extremely poor conditions. Conflicts and instability have created an environment conducive to criminal activities like robbery and assaults. Due to the unstable security situation, many airlines have stopped offering flights to Syria. This makes it difficult for people to leave Syria. I truly never expected that living in a time of peace would mean everything is safe, but that's not the case. Syria, or any of the countries mentioned, is incredibly unstable, where even food and life itself can feel incredibly fragile, teetering on the edge of survival. Dear friends, we have just gone over the countries that are on the blacklist and are considered to be the most unstable in the world. Of course, there are many other names, especially the African countries embroiled in civil wars, such as Congo, Yemen, and Sudan. In summary, countries that have high levels of poverty, crime, civil conflict, or serious social issues are inherently unsafe. The countries mentioned above are also only relatively defined, and, to be more accurate, we need to carefully select specific metrics to evaluate them as objectively as possible. And that wraps up today's video. If you found today's topic interesting and helpful, don't forget to support us by liking and sharing the video. Well, as usual, goodbye, and see you next time.